We're now to sport, and Swindon Town are heading for the record books again. They've won 10 games in a row and go for their 11th tomorrow at Oxford.
Well, to discuss this and all our league sides, let's get the views of our expert, Jeff Twentyman, who's with David Passmore.
Thanks very much indeed, Amir. Yes, it is a staggering run of success. 10 wins in a row and counting, and they've only lost once in their last 21 games. Jeff, when Paolo di Canio took over, did you think it was a good choice, or were you worried it might all go wrong?
I think it was fairly inspired, but we all know that the great players don't necessarily mean they're going to be the great managers, but fantastic job. I mean, 10 wins back-to-back. I mean, I played in teams that didn't win 10 in a season, so it just shows how good it is.
Well, one of their early defeats came against Oxford, who they face tomorrow.
Yeah.
Can they turn it around there?
Yeah, I fancy they'll beat Oxford. I mean, James Constable is a big threat for Oxford. They played early in the season, as you say, at the county ground. Oxford won that one 2-1. They were worrying times for Di Canio. He lost 3 in a row. Got sent to the stands there, first time of many. I think he's got a season ticket now, hasn't he, for his appearances, but he's doing a great job. I expect them to win.
Swindon Town are the talk of English football right now after stringing together an incredible 10 league wins in a row. The prospect of extending that record and their lead at the summit of League Two tomorrow at bitter rivals Oxford has got manager Paolo di Canio a little bit excited. Swindon lost the last meeting between the two back in August, and apparently that made his side even better.
This game is a special game. Every game will be a special game from now. This one is even more special. In some way, they help us to become more strong, more units. I want to thank them for this, because since that day, the damage they make to us and the moment that the game finish help us to become more strong, more angry.
Explosive start to that M4 derby between Oxford and Swindon. Oxford strong at home, Swindon strong home and away, and top of the table. Let's hear about those early exchanges. Jeff Collins.
Well, it's been a bad-tempered game. Twice in the opening 10 minutes, players from both sides have had to be pulled apart by the referee and his assistants. In a second incident, Oxford striker James Constable was sent off for violent conduct. But despite being 10 men down, Oxford has scored twice in as many minutes to Asa Hall and Ollie Johnson. So 30 minutes in, it's Oxford 2, Swindon 0.
James Constable, the man who scored both goals in Oxford's win at Swindon earlier in the season. He's not going to be scoring today, but despite that, the 10 men doing OK. Well, better than OK, doing exceptionally without them.
On to football. It was a passionate local derby for Swindon as they lost 2-0 away at bitter rivals Oxford United. There were a handful of arrests amid a heightened police presence at the Kassam Stadium. Passions were also high on the pitch, with Oxford reduced to 10 men after just 11 minutes. But Swindon couldn't capitalise and were a goal down to an Asa Hall strike 5 minutes later, and 2 behind on 18 minutes. They do remain top of the League Two this evening, even if manager Paolo di Canio wasn't impressed with the performance.
And we paid our price, and to be honest, we deserve, even if we create 6 clear chances, because at the end of the day, I didn't see the fire on my players in the second half.
Well, let's take you to League Two, and the leaders, Swindon, suffered their first defeat in 2012 at rivals Oxford, who had James Constable sent off after just 10 minutes in this one. Now, Constable shown a red card for the challenge coming up on Joe De Vera. Just there. But just 8 minutes later, Oxford went ahead. Lee Holmes' free kick turned in by Asa Hall. And it was 2-0. 3 minutes later, Holmes again with the assist. Ollie Johnson the scorer, and it's Swindon's run of 10 consecutive wins comes to an end, but they do stay top.
Now starting with Paolo di Canio's Swindon, who had a derby to contend with at the Kassam Stadium.
Pre-match, Paolo di Canio thanked his local rivals for turning their season, describing their defeat back in August as the medicine they needed to make them stronger. In front of a sellout crowd, Swindon were hoping to rack up an 11th straight win. So when James Constable received his marching orders with just 10 minutes gone, the odds looked stacked in their favour. Perhaps the striker was too keen to impress against the club he snubbed in January. Constable dismissed for catching Joe De Vera, and that left Chris Wilder with a major headache. But the Oxford boss was feeling much better just 6 minutes later when Asa Hall nipped in to draw first blood. The home fans could hardly contain themselves as Swindon's 10-match winning run was now under severe threat. Moments later, Lee Holmes crossed for Ollie Johnson, who couldn't miss. Even still, they couldn't afford to relax. Matt Ritchie's trusty left boot almost put the leaders back into contention as the teams headed for the break. The 10 men, though, were holding firm, and when Swindon did get their chance, they didn't take it. Between them, Paul Benson and Billy Bowden should have done better, but Oxford enjoyed their day in the sun.
It was a massive game for the supporters, massive game for the players. It was a big game that needed a big performance. I got the game, got the performance.
What about that derby at the Kassam Stadium, Steve? Oxford beating the informed team in the country, but they're having to do it the hard way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to play against, as you say, the best team in that division at this stage, with 10 men for nearly 80 minutes, then you wouldn't say that was ideal, but no, they scored very, very quickly, actually, after the sending off. Scored 2 goals within 7 minutes of the sending off, and then were able to see the game through, which is a fantastic achievement, as you say, against top side in that division so far.
But in Power League 2, Swindon lost for the first time this year, and Cheltenham's point sees them 3 points behind the Robins. Southend's win at Burton moves them ahead of Shrewsbury, and Crawley dropped to 6th after a run of just 2 wins in 11.
A total of 13 people were arrested after yesterday's Oxford-Swindon match, with trouble flaring before, during and after the game. Local police had the force helicopter, dog units, mounted section and officers in protective clothing all on standby for the derby game and had to intervene both inside and outside the ground. The arrests were for criminal damage and public order offences.
On the verge of an incredible 11th consecutive victory, Paolo di Canio's side finally came unstuck against rivals Oxford United. Asa Hall opened the scoring, and despite the home side playing with only 10 men after an early sending off, it didn't prevent them from getting a decisive second goal through Ollie Johnson.
We begin with derby action. It's Oxford against Swindon. Now, may not be up there with your classic hardcore cross-town clashes, but when the U's and the Robins get it on, it can be just as intense, particularly for one family in Oxford, where one brother supports Oxford and the other is a Swindon fan. With a relative disaster in store for someone, here's how their derby day, and that of plenty of other fans too, panned out. Tony Husband reports.
While the fans from both sides were being cajoled by police into their sections, the Kassam Stadium car park was just about neutral ground for the Reeves brothers. Mike, the oldest, grew up in Swindon, but the family moved to Oxford, where younger brother Adrian learned to love football and Oxford.
I don't particularly look forward to these days because living and working amongst Oxford fans, I'm going to get stick one way or the other.
Pre-match analysis for one familiar face centres on one centre-half.
Dewberry's going to score, not quite sure which end.
But the controversy would centre around a centre-forward, famous at both clubs.
Swindon players bundle into Constable. It's a red card for James Constable. Yeah, it's going to be Holmes with the kick. Whips it in towards the back post. Up go the heads of Chilliton. And Oxford have scored. Asa Hall has put the ball in the back of the net.
It's as good as going to Wembley today.
So exciting. I'm just buzzing with the excitement.
Really good ball down the left side. This is Holmes chasing after it. It's got nobody in support. Will he come in on his right foot? He's gone in his left foot. Plays the ball across the face of the opponent. It's 2-0 to Oxford. Ollie Johnson's made it 2-0.
Really plays it to the near post. It's hammered away. And that's it! Unbelievable victory in the derby for Oxford United.
It's a result we've waited for years.
Brilliant. Can't say much more, can you? I'm very proud to be an Oxford fan today. It's really brilliant.
And to be honest, we deserve, even if we create 6 clear chances, because at the end of the day, I didn't see the fire on my players in the second half.
It's just a special day.
And bragging rights for the fans as well.
Oh, bragging rights for the fans. We can. I'm just going home to brag at the son-in-law now, because he's an ardent Swindon supporter.
Emotions run deep in this one, and big day for Oxford. That's the first time they've done the double over Swindon since 1973, Graham.
It's a fantastic result, and Swindon were on a great run as well.
But it was all about your chum Lee Holmes, wasn't it?
I talked to him earlier. He's a fantastic bloke, and we saw him there making 2 goals. It's fantastic for him.
You phone Holmes, just like E.T.
It does. I tell you what, the good thing about Lee as well is he's dropped down a couple of divisions to play football. It's good to see young players doing that to get that vital experience. It's so much better than just playing reserve team football.
Fair point.
Paolo di Canio has transformed Swindon's fortunes. The Robins arrive for this sellout derby match against rivals Oxford, 4 points clear at the top, thanks to 10 straight league wins. And the visitors were gifted a chance to take an early lead. Ryan Clark was let off the hook by Ronan Murray, who was selected in place of Alan Connell. The U's keeper was left fuming after play had been allowed to continue. Oxford replied with a long-range strike from Damien Batt, but it produced nothing more than a routine save for Wes Fotheringham. However, with the game still only 11 minutes old, United suffered the blow of losing their top marksman, James Constable. The former Swindon target was sent off for use of an elbow on Joe De Vera. Yet despite that early setback, it was the home side who opened the scoring soon afterwards. Asa Hall struck for only the second time this season. And the shell-shocked Robins were soon caught out again. Oxford doubled their lead just 2 minutes later, when Lee Holmes laid it on a plate for Ollie Johnson. The former Norwich striker claimed his third goal for the club. The visitors eventually started to make the most of their extra man, but Clark had by now regained his composure after a shaky start. The U's number one then got lucky though, when Matt Ritchie let fly with another impressive strike. Di Canio's men continued to look for a way back into the match after the interval, but the leaders were strangely ineffective up front. Swindon brought on Billy Bowden, but it failed to alter the outcome, as the Robins suffered their first league defeat since the turn of the year. Chris Wilder's men held out to claim their second win against their local rivals this season.